And so you look at the fewest wins possibilities in the NFL, and this is something we have talked about and kind of earmarked weeks ago.
Yes.
We were actually doing the show when you told me of the breaking news of Jimmy G, and I was like, there go all my futures on the Raiders. Because you just didn't see this coming, this news of the foot, and maybe he doesn't even play and all these things. You mentioned full tank mode. The Raiders right now to have the fewest wins in the NFL next year are 12-1. The Cardinals are the faves right now, if you look at it that way, glass half empty, at 2-1. I got to look at that Raiders number. And again, nobody will admit this. Josh McDaniels is like, dude, my job could be on the line unless you're on the same page with Mark Davis as the owner. I mean, there's some cloak and dagger stuff that has to happen. It didn't happen in Houston last year, and that's why they screwed themselves out of the number one pick by winning the last week. Lovey wasn't on the same page with the owner. So, like, you almost have to you hate to say it, but you kind of have to be in that suck for luck mentality like the Colts were years ago, and they were open about it, and it worked.
I think a safer bet here for the Cardinals might just be to bet the under win total at even money. So you're only getting double for them to have the fewest wins in the league, and you're getting even money for them to have under 4.5 wins, and that gives you at least just a little bit of wiggle room if the Texans just can't figure out anything at all this year with all of the young guys that they're trying to have to rely on to be real big producers. You talk about the Bucs. I mean, we think that there maybe is something left in the tank at all for Baker Mayfield.
And a coach that knows I'm probably out of here if it goes really south, right?
Like, we think Baker Mayfield's got something left in the tank. Maybe not. Maybe they get to a point where they fire sale that team. Right? I mean, like, you still have some assets in Mike Evans. Yeah, you got Devin, you got Mike Evans, you've got Godwin, but listen, Evans is on the wrong side of 30, and Godwin's getting up there as well. So if you decide, hey, this is just not going to work, let's blow it up. I mean, you have some tradable assets there, so maybe they decide that they want to go ahead and just let her rip when it comes down to the tank mode. So I think with the Cardinals in specific, I would just bet the under 4.5 as opposed to just giving myself at least a little bit of wiggle room as far as that goes. But any of these other teams, I think, are super. Listen, the Texans, Bucs, Rams, and Commanders, I think, are all definitely super live. And then we get to the Raiders and Colts, which, look, if Anthony Richardson is floor Anthony Richardson as opposed to even middling Anthony Richardson, the Colts could be absolutely terrible. Right.
And we're going to talk about some props later on the show, love, hate, or like. And one of mine comes from the Colts with the exact guy you're talking about. So I won't lead the witness on that one yet.
But the Raiders you mentioned, and that's where we were talking about. If Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, listen.
Oh, man. What else? The defense. I know they drafted defense, right? You get the big kid out of Texas Tech with your 7th overall pick to help that defensive line, which looks like the strongest asset that the Raiders have. But you look at the back seven, and there's not a whole lot to like defensively. And it's been a sieve. And now, if you don't have a quarterback, Josh Jacobs feels disgruntled. 17 wants out. I mean, what are you doing in the desert if you're not selling away some of those pieces? Yeah.
Difficult division. Second hardest schedule in the NFL entering the year, right? So it is already stacked against you a little bit from that standpoint. I think that there's a non-zero chance that the Raiders we could be middle of the season talking about the Raiders looking like one of the worst teams in the NFL.
And trading away assets before the deadline. Yeah. Like I could absolutely see a Devontae Adams on the move if he's been outspoken already this year. I like the Commanders at 10-1. The reason why I don't like it is because Rivera's job's on the line too, and their defense is really good. Like their defense is good. I don't know about the offense yet. We'll find out about Sam Howell. But I could see them being a 6-win team, 6 to 8-win team, somewhere in that vicinity. The Titans they're not playable for me because I respect the head coach Mike Vrabel so much at 14-1, and I don't want to bring up Steph's Patriots here, but like they're in a brutal division now. They're clearly the worst team on paper out of that 4. Could you even live in a world in 2023 where Bill Belichick has the worst record in the NFL?
I was going to say I do not think it will be.
I don't either.
On the right column, I do not think it would be.
No,
for those of you watching at home on your VSiN subscription, right, or on the DraftKings Network, appreciate you watching us. Over there on the right-hand column, I don't think it will be any of those teams. However, you gave me 100 Dave bucks, and you said, "Hey, you have to bet one of those teams." I would bet the Patriots. I would bet the Patriots at 15-1. But I don't think it will be them. But
I don't either.
I would have if I had to do it. I would bet the Patriots at 15 to 1.
And again, if you're watching on VSiN.com, the right side is very interesting because I know everybody loves the Bears. I do. I get it. And they're high on Justin Fields. They had the worst record last year. Now, I know, the Bears, they had a perfect season last year in that the fan base was happy because they loved the quarterback, which I don't love as much as the fan base does. And they were just bad enough to get the number 1 pick, which they traded away. I don't know if they maximized the value of that trade, but they were in a position because they weren't looking quarterback. They've sold on Justin Fields. Is there any chance that 25 to 1 they're playable to go back to back? Because if that happens, Matt Eberflus is probably going to get shown the door.
I don't think so, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I honestly, I really and truly don't think so. I mean,
I think they're being. It's a lot of wishful thinking that the Bears all of a sudden are going to make this gigantic leap in the North.
I don't know if it's going to be a gigantic leap, but look, they had no talent at receiver position. Now you bring in DJ Moore, and now he has a true number 1 to throw to.
like that.
It's a year of offseason for Chase Claypool to try to get, worked into the lineup a little bit better. The offensive line was actually pretty good. They have some talent on defense. I think they win enough games to not really be in this discussion. I think it is one of the teams from the left-hand column. Most likely, very, very most likely the Cardinals. There's every incentive in the world for them to lose as many games as possible, but I think there's just a little bit safer way to play them. It's just the under 4.5.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.